Howdy y'all, Hex here, and I wanted to just kind of talk to y'all about my particular build with the Eradicator and why I chose it. Um, well, first off, I'll show you my build um, and all the aspects about it, and then I'll just go through with a lot of different other types of builds that can be used if you don't have what I have, or if you want to choose different routes. But so for this one, it's not released yet. We don't know what it is, but it's called folded ferrite armor, and my speculation is going to be introduced in the, I guess, TLC or the event for the flagship of the Eradicator. So I'm going to choose that one because the previous one that I was going to do was called the C1CR charged armor, and so this one, it's pretty hefty weight wise, while the other one isn't that hefty in weight wise. So you're going to be almost at max weight with my build per se, but it does have 20% ballistic and radioactive defense, and has a repair time of 0, so that's always good. It's about the same thing with the charged armor. The repair time is 0. You're only getting 18% defense, per each one. So now a lot of people have, just in case you want to do the small targets, and maybe the small targets will not have the charged armor problems, but I know the larger targets will have the charged armor, useless, be depleted in one shot, and then all you're getting is the 18% defense from this armor. But it doesn't add any armor points or anything like that. So honestly, the new one that might come out might not. This is all up in the air. They haven't even released any information about it. This one probably be the best one to do because it does have 20% on each one, and it does add armor points for this one. So as you can see, I don't have any countermeasures or anything like that because this raid cycle does not have countermeasures. Now, the previous raid cycle does, and that was one of the big downfalls that KIXEYE did, was they introduced countermeasures to basically a hole that didn't need countermeasures. And they made it even more complicated by saying this turret had rockets, and you had to have sprints or tridents on it for to counter those. But this one is this one can't has to be done by an anti-missile. And the rocket one, you can't take that out with the anti-missiles. But it's stupid, and thankfully they have done better, and now we're not doing any countermeasures. So that makes building this a lot better. So it's full Devastator cannons. I chose the Strike System 5. It's a missile, yes, for missiles, but it has a better combat speed than Speed System 6, better combat speed than adding the resistors, and it also gives you a projectile speed of 60%. So I don't know how fast these projectiles, the projectiles don't look like it's going to be that fast because it's 196 speed. That's not going to be fast. And I like to see the targets get killed faster. Faster projectile speed, you can deal with the target faster and kill it faster, so that they can't have the opportunity to send off another volley to hit your ship. CL3, I've done that because it's both ballistic and radioactive defense. It's pretty good all-rounder. And then Cannon System 5, the ballistic range and ballistic damage is what's caught my eye. The ballistic damage more so, because it kind of combines two. Whereas if you have nuclear accelerator, and by that means you only do nuclear accelerator 1, faster, build time. But nuclear accelerator is only speed and ballistic range. And then you have to have another special for ballistic damage. In which, there's other specials that do good. But this one, you kind of combine those range and damage. And if speed isn't a problem, which is where I put the strike system 5, then I don't believe that speed will be a problem for me. So, of course, siege battery 4. If you really do worry about your weight, like if you can't hold, if you have an upgrade like that, 37,000. The best thing you do is reduce this the siege battery into a garrison battery or assault battery. And I believe they're both the same. Not sure about build time, but it reduces a little bit. It's all based on weapon weight for the garrison and assault battery, whereas a siege battery is the total weight. So, and that would be a problem if you don't have the weight constrictions of the upgraded dock. So, I personally don't have it right now, but I'm planning on upgrading it sooner or later. It's gonna happen. I did also, after that one, I did siege targeting 4 because it gives a huge bonus for building damage, 165%. And because being a siege raid, only weapons, only no ships or anything like that, this is one thing that I thought would be the best thing to do, because you're only dealing with buildings. And then autoloader 3, I've seen how I've calculated numbers. I think it's at max VXP turns out to be like a second, 1.2 seconds. It's around that amount of time without the autoloader, and I believe that if you have the autoloader, it gets down to 0.3, 0.2, and that's more DPS that you'll get out of it, more bang for your buck. You might have a less damage, but that less damage, if you do it more times, then then you have a more damage. Your output of damage will be a lot better. So let's change this back real quick. Yeah, it's not even, it's way down here. See, it's so weird looking. So that's my build. Oh, that's actually really cool looking, and blue. Yeah. So there's lots of other builds out there. So let's kind of look at what I was looking for. Now there's another build that I was thinking of doing, but honestly I'm not exactly too sure if it would be good or not, because you do use up 2 specials for defense, and in a way it might be good, who knows. But in this sense, I'm doing reinforced layered armor. That's the limited ballistic armor. Or you could just go to your research and just do layered armor 3. The only difference between these is you get structure deflection and ship deflection, but it doesn't really matter. They're both the same ballistic defense, so if you want that one, that's free. It's not limited like they like to do. Also, I'm not exactly too sure if evade might be a problem here, so this is why I was thinking about this. Evade bonus of 40%. Evade might be a big factor in this. Evade was a huge factor in the previous cycle with all the stupid torpedoes, piece of shit. And then the radioactive damage defense, is 32%. So don't know for sure if evade will be a big factor in this upcoming raid cycle. From what I tested, it seemed like it was a 100% accuracy thing. So I don't know per se. So that's why that one. And then it boosts, that's just a 95% radioactive defense. Now here's the kicker. Let's go look at the defenses. if we go and do these, all 4 of them, you get 98 ballistic defense, which that's pretty good. That's, you know, high up there. And then radioactive defense is kind of skipping. So if you get that, you know, the thrower hits you, it's going to do a little bit more damage, and so that won't be as good, you know, for your fleet. And then also the launcher, that'll be, you know, that'll hurt you pretty good too. And those weapons do have splash, so you gotta be careful with those. But I was, you know, looking at that. The previous build I have was 95%. This one, I was looking at it. If you use the R armors from the FM, you get a 96 and 95 radioactive defense. So that's pretty good. But let's boost it up a bit and use the radioactive resistors, 96, 96. So I effectively, with this build, got 1% more defense. And that 1% might not look a lot, not be that much good, but, you know, it does make a difference in battle. The only problem with this build is, look how many specials I do for defense percentage. You know, I sacrifice 1 special for this one. This would be the CL3. If I was, you know, CL3, I'd do that. But I'm sacrificing 3 specials for that. I'm sacrificing speed because this one is not as fast as my other build. So that's all factors in what you know, how you build. You know, this is slower, but this has more defense, and, you know, it won't be as much damage potential. So let's look at the other stuff that I can do. I could do cannon system 4 or 5, I mean, and then of course a siege battery. Let's see what else. That one. So that would be probably what I would think about doing, but because this is a slower build, I might actually change that into the nuclear accelerator. Remember, only 1, because you don't need 2. And so that boosts my speed up a little bit, a lot better than before. And then instead of this, for the damage, the ballistic damage increase, I've seen a lot of people do high velocity rounds. That's good. It increases projectile speed. That's always a nice, you know, look right there. But the building damage isn't as good. It has better ballistic damage than the cannon system 5, but the building damage isn't as good. See, mine was around 1400 building damage. This one's, you know, a little bit less than 1000. So, but that could be a possible, you know, scenario. And this one has 96% defense, so that's always a good idea. But if you're not looking for defenses and these ridiculously stupid limited armors and limited specials, let's go with just what isn't limited. This one won't be limited at all, so that'll be 98 and 94. So let's kind of bring back the CL3 and see if that plays a good role in this. So this is 96 and 95. If you don't have the strike engine, you could either do the Magnus drive, which you will lose a lot of turn speed, which might be a big factor. You know, turn like a whale, that's not good. But you will have a lot of combat speed with this one, with the nuclear accelerator. But let's go with the... See, in this build, you can't do Strike System 5 because of the projectile speed. So that limits you. So then you'll have to do Speed System 6. And then because you have high velocity rounds, you can't put on the Siege Targeting 4. So then you'll have to do something else. you could do a reload special. The best thing to do for a reload special would be the autoloader 3. And so you will be faster, not as fast as the Magnus drive. Well, let's put it on the Magnus drive to see how fast that is. So you'll be fast with Magnus drive, then you'll have a reload, and then the CL3 will make it down to 95%. Remember, it was 96. And then you'll have those armors. A potentially good build. You know, if you are worried about the turn speed, then go down to Speed System 6. And that would be a potential good build. But, you know, you might be wondering why I'm not choosing the new welded barrel system, I believe it was called. Yeah. Personally, I don't believe it'll be a good thing to use. You get more projectile speed out of it, so 50% more than what you have now. It does increase your combat speed, 25%. Those are good points. But from what I've seen in the past with the mass nexus, but it was mass augmentative nexus or something like that. It was a nexus special, this one. From what I've seen in the past, this special did not improve the damage at all, and you rely on the critical hit. So, and as well as this, you know, the only damage increase you're getting is 25% critical hit. You know, it does say plus 125%, but that 100% is your base critical hit. The only, you know, addition to your critical hit is that 25%. So you're getting 25% more of a critical hit. But you do have a higher chance of a critical hit, which is good. You're getting that speed, which is good. You're getting that projectile speed, which is good. And so that's all well, but you know, you're dealing, if you're not having a reload of any type or anything like that, it kind of hinders you because you're banking on that critical hit. And I don't want to, you know, bank on the what ifs. I want to know a flat damage amount that I'm getting and what I'm doing to the, you know, target. And I don't like the random chances of what I can do by randomly, you know, getting critical hits. Granted, you could boost your critical hit chances so much that you'll get a critical hit every single hit, but there's always that one time where you get a lot less damage because it's not critical hit. So personally, I would do the reload because you'll get more damage per second out of that than this. Because if you have that reload, you'll be getting like every shot will be about 0.2, 0.3. I think I recall calculating it. And then the regular reload, if you don't have the autoloader 3, is over 1 second. So you're getting 3, maybe 4 shots of the cannon, you know, every single time the one shot happens. So that's a lot more damage per second, I would think. And that's why I don't like that new special, is because it's all based on chance. And we all know how KIXEYE is with chances. It's not good. But it does have its, you know, qualities, and if you want to use it, then, you know, by all means, you're getting good stuff out of it. You're getting projectile speed and combat speed, and those are good. But from what I've seen in the 88 targets, and who knows, they might change the targets a little bit between now and the raid. I didn't see a real clear. I didn't see anything that would help if you had combat speed. You know, granted, you know how you're supposed to drive or how they want you to drive it. You want to go run through the target. Avoid all the splash by being fast and furious. But how I am going to do the targets is I'm going to tank the stuff that splashes out. Tank all the stuff with my lead ship or a ship that's, you know, that can do it. So, and the other ones will not have any damage because the tank is, you know, doing just like the mana cores and that stuff. We couldn't really per se do that in the skirmish cycle because they, you know, surrounded us and that stuff. You could, in the mana cores, you can actually kind of guide it to how you wanted it and tank those targets. And this one you'll be able to tank it because everything's stationary. So in my previous video with the Hydras, you could see that with whenever I tanked the target with my Blood Hydra. And it actually worked really well, 34 minutes damage. In this sense, and that didn't take any speed at all, no speed whatsoever. But this one, I'll be tanking with the flagship, and theoretically, it would be about the same way as the Blood Hydra. And if I keep my ships apart from the lead ship, then the splash won't affect it. So that'll help. So just be aware, you know, you're dealing with chances with the barrel system, and that's why I personally didn't get the special in the raid. So, and if you want to go by combat speed, then, you know, by all means, combat speed makes it, you know, you do the target faster, then that's all good. But I like the damage percentage of the building damage, and I don't have to, you know, rely on speed in order to do that stuff. So that is, you know, why I'm choosing this build right here. And you're getting 1,400 building damage. Although the projectile speed might be annoying for me because I'm only getting 60%, whereas if you did have the welded barrel system and high velocity rounds, you're getting, you know, 160% projectile speed. I've seen how the Hydras do without projectile speed, and it annoys me to no, you know, extent. It's just terrible. But this is the build that does not go over the mountains. We will get a new siege hull in the next raid cycle, and theoretically that's the build that's the hull that can shoot over the mountains. So if you dislike the mountains pretty much as much as I don't like them, I mean it's a stupid but interesting aspect of the targets, then, you know, Hydras would be probably the best thing for you. Granted, they won't be able to do the targets, and probably be the A targets, or, you know, the higher tier targets. You'll be able to do Bs, and granted, if you actually use them like that, to just snipe out the stuff on the, you know, mountainside, you'd probably prep out the A sets. You know, prep out the stuff that you can hit with the mountains and that they can't hit you. That's a, you know, interesting aspect to do it. So that's one thing that you can do. You use it as like a prepping tool, because those can shoot over the mountains, and, you know, these suckers can't. So that's, I would do more testing later on. You know, in the raid, I'll test out that. I still need to refit my Hydras, but my main focus will be the Eradicator. I will only do the Hydras with tokens, if I can get the tokens. So I hope this video helps you on Pirates. So we'll get through this, hopefully. Until next time, Pirates.